the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Greetings and welcome everyone to this episode of AVNation TV's Connected. I'm your host David Danto, and I have one guest with me, one simple individual, single person, but he is the most prominent social media person that I know. Short of being just a celebrity for the sake of being a celebrity, when you want to be an intelligent and an influencer, it's him. Evan Christel, thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I think we're on what, number 50 or 45?
47. It's Connected 47.
Lucky 47. I'm taking it to Vegas.
I got to do something special for 50. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet, but
That's
I'll
going to be a
definitely
big one. And congratulations. That's no small feat. Part of what I do is just showing up like every day on social media. So part of that is consistency over time. So you've earned your chops here.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So for people who don't know you, and I can't imagine that there are a lot of them if they own a computer, but assume so for a second. Who is Evan Christel? How do you describe yourself?
I'm not famous, so I have the social media audience of a famous person without being famous. So I'm not a politician. I'm not media. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a rock star. On and on and on. I'm just a guy who happened to work in our industry, enterprise tech, for 30 years, and happens to be obsessed with social media. So over the decade, I've built an audience of 500,000 followers on all the various platforms. And I've done it just through showing up consistently day in, day out, and frankly, volume. But also focus on a few areas I'm personally, professionally obsessed with, including video, among others. And there's no silver bullet or tips or tricks or hacks or things I can share per se, but I'm happy to share more about my story.
And without getting into too much of the dirty details that would be inappropriate to share, you can say you're doing it for a living now, aren't you? You are hired.
Yeah. I am a hired gun. So unlike our analyst friends who have to have an air of, independence and not aligned, I'm a marketeer. I like promoting, advocating, evangelizing for clients that I work with, and I do it in a fun way, but also educational, hopefully entertaining. It's like what you do, edutainment, right? I think that's what people want these days.
Okay, well, that's awesome. What is the Twitter handle for people who don't know, and what are the other social media platforms that you're on?
It's Evan Christel on Twitter. Obviously on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's become an amazing media destination, content creation platform, and then all the things, right? Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Clubhouse, Reddit, Quora, Nextdoor.com is one I signed up for recently. So that, there are so many platforms. Frankly, I'm beginning to like the more niche platforms or the groups, the WhatsApp groups or the DM groups. We're in some smaller, more tight-knit communities. And that's a lot of where the fun and the action is, frankly, is taking your community kind of offline or in a subreddit or something to have really more direct engagement and interaction.
And those are engagements that you'll do personally. You'll be on, obviously you can't, preload something on Reddit, I don't think. That would be something where you're responding to other people and listing things yourself and really being personally involved in a lot of this.
Yeah, wherever there's great content, I find myself. And so, my email newsletter is on Twitter and LinkedIn.
I was going to ask you about your newsletter. Let's take that for a second. You had launched that pretty recently. Let us, what is the newsletter all about?
The newsletter is based on a platform that was acquired by Twitter called Review. And basically it links up traditional email newsletters with social. So you can publish your email newsletter on a platform that is owned by Twitter now, which means it has the social reach of social network combined with all the tools of building and email newsletter with all the tools you need to manage that email list. And it's fantastic. And LinkedIn's doing a similar thing. So it's an old adage, nothing new under the sun, right? I mean, everyone said email is dead as a communications and marketing tool. It's not. When people were predicting video, was dead. Of course, the pandemic changed that view. So we're all glued to our screens. And live streaming, which is a new sort of hobby over the pandemic. I'm out less, and so I've started live streaming with friends and family and then clients. And that's been a boon, over the platform. So, I really enjoy experimenting, whether it's platforms or modalities, audio, video, texting, messaging, all the different ways we can communicate. I like playing around with.
Yeah. And I certainly follow you. I'm certainly not on all of them, but on most of them. In that, you will be a source of news for things that I haven't heard about. So in addition to you promoting things for your clients, you're also curating news in the technology space. I know you do. Help me with that. I know you do med tech. I know you do collaboration. You do a lot with Dave Michaels, a good friend of both of ours, and general IT and security. What do you consider your top, 4 or 5, subject matter expert areas?
Yeah, things that I'm personally interested in: 5G, the Internet of Things, AI, cloud, of course, the AV world and how it impacts the enterprise and the smart home, and those are things that I really search out news stories for. Just like sort of in the old days, you'd have an editor at a newspaper. Remember newspapers? Or so curating, or ABC, always be curating. People wonder, well, what do I post? I don't know what to post. And just find interesting articles and stories and attach yourself to them and add color commentary. It's really easy.
How much of what we see from you is you live doing it real time versus content that you may have preloaded or put up on some of the systems that you can tweet with in advance? I'm just curious, how much is real time versus just stuff you've dumped in?
It's about half and half, and I find people are, either in the camp of doing it all personally or automating it all, and I think both camps kind of got it wrong. I use automation intelligently on my feeds to plan and to schedule in advance. And then on top of that, I go in and use the apps hands-on and leveraging all the little peculiarities of the apps these days to great effect. You can now co-tweet. I don't know if you knew that, Dave, but you can co-tweet. We can schedule and synchronize it and publish a tweet together. So there are all these little things within the apps. LinkedIn has you can do live video on LinkedIn. So all of a sudden your network can see you directly. So all of these things require you to be in the app. You can't necessarily schedule, but it's both. Like I've tweeted over 1 million times over like 13 years. Obviously couldn't do that all by hand.
Right.
So automation is part of it.
The difference between somebody who does this all in an automated manner and what you do is I notice that every once in a while you tweet something that really catches my, most of the time you tweet something that catches my eye, but every once in a while I'll pick up something that I feel I want to respond to, either to elaborate or a funny snarky response or whatever, and you're there in real time. Some of them develop into conversations. Some of them develop into days-long chats between a number of participants. We had a recent one of those in our industry. So there's nothing wrong with using, as you say, the automation intelligently, as long as you are still engaging with the community when the community has some questions. Just as we were coming on the air, there was a tweet. Let me make sure that I get it right. There was a tweet that Tesla's unlimited connectivity plan including navigation now expires after 8 years. So I quoted that tweet and said, or if there are any undisclosed bots in the software. It's sometimes the jokes are just there. You might as well take them. The straight lines come up.
You gotta take the jokes. And people go to social media not just to be informed like you're in a classroom or a lecture. They want to be entertained and they want to have fun. And it's kind of a bit of escapism as well as information and news you're going for. So you really, even if you're a big company, you got to be funny and interesting. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in the noise. Look at Elon. I mean, the guys, love him or hate him, he's pretty funny a lot sometimes. So, that's my mission as well.
for those of us that don't own companies as large as Tesla, that we work for companies like that, you also have to be skilled to understand the line. And I couldn't even give you a detailed explanation of where the line is, but you know when you've crossed it. There will be, and I don't know about you, and I'd be curious if you tell me, but there will be times that I will be typing a tweet and I will be halfway through the tweet and I will say, this is not going to do anything good for anybody, and I just delete it. And it's something I really wanted to say.
But I'll give you an example of what you tell me whether I crossed the line. New York State is updating its sexual harassment laws, state laws, to incorporate the new world of remote work and Zooming. And so basically they're changing their practices and policies to reflect the real way in which people are working, remote work and on cameras and so forth. So I tweeted, I suggested we call this law the Tubin Law. Now, did I cross the line there, or was that like on the line? What do you think?
If that's all you said, if you retweeted an announcement and you put it in over there, I consider that appropriate snark.
Okay, good.
Okay,
well, I work for myself. I don't have an HR manager to respond to, but yes, in all seriousness, it is a problem, and I know people at big companies who've been fired for things that happen on social. Yeah. Let alone DMs and private messages. Yeah, it's
a very dangerous thing, and for my day job I work for Poly, and I have the key. I have more keys than I would like to have, honestly, to things that I could do where when I'm typing, it's not coming out in my name, it's coming out in Polly's name. So I have to be very careful with a lot of it. Also, you were talking about LinkedIn Live, which goes right along with this stuff. I'm now using, on top of the technology I was using to do the Poly Weekly News show, which I do every week. If you're not watching Poly Weekly News, please watch it. If for nobody else, for me. We now use a tool called Restream, which lets the live video cut across all the platforms simultaneously. We're on all our Twitter accounts, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all this at the same time, live or pre-recorded, however I've done it. So, it's a powerful engine, and you have to be very careful. You have to know the things you can't say. Here's all the stuff that, you never say to anybody. Here's all the stuff that you can't say right now, and here's all the stuff that you probably could say but don't. Just please don't. And you have to keep that in the back of your mind, but yet still seem to be fresh and exciting and represent, the brands you're representing or the ones that have hired you in ways that are interesting and get people engaged. It's not easy.
It's not easy, and it's not well understood. Marketeers really don't appreciate that people like to engage with people on social media, and that brands just have this natural disadvantage. I don't care how big or well-known your brand is. People just don't engage in the way they do with people. Hence, back to Elon, I hate to always use him, but look at his audience of 100+ million followers versus Tesla's of 20 million, because Elon gets the attention. David Danto, doing this as his own media company. I know you work for a company, but you're your own media personality now. So we all have to realize this. It's a brave new world with media and content and social.
Well, I'm very lucky in that I cut my chops. First of all, I've been doing this for 4 decades, and I cut my chops. The gray is hereditary. You get it from your kids. I started in the broadcasting industry, and I used to teach broadcasting
full circle
at the City University. Exactly. I would tell people that if you're in a room with microphones and a camera, assume your mother and the Pope is always on the other side. Never say anything that you're going to regret talking about. I mean, you might even regret talking about that now, but it's a true story. So I understand media training. I also have the ability to understand the technology coming from a technology side. I was the one who built, if you remember, Mike Bloomberg, Bloomberg TV's original multi-screen with a lot of the tickers and the stock information. I was the one who built that, going back in the mid-1990s for all his TV and radio stations. So I can manage the fact that I'm now looking at, without exaggeration, 9 screens, 2 lights, and I have to remember to not look at you, even though I want to look at you because I like looking at you and connecting with you as a human being. I have to look at the camera because I want people to think I'm looking at you. So it's actually not very easy. And the hardest part that I find isn't curating the social, it's curating the one-on-one conversations. Because without exaggeration right now, I have 4 emails in front of me, plus Twitter, plus LinkedIn, plus Facebook, and on any one of those platforms, a customer or a client of my company or Poly might be reaching out to me. And the hard part is not engaging with them, because if they reached out to me, I'm going to reach back out to them. Knowledge of a problem is ownership. The hard part is remembering where that communication came from 3 weeks down the road, because there's no way to aggregate the various channels. I don't know how you manage it. You must have the same problem.
Well, it requires a certain peculiar skill around multi-threading. I wouldn't say multitasking, but kind of running all these like threads, almost tabs in parallel. And it's not it requires a very unusual personality, no disrespect, to manage that kind of thing. And it requires being very open. I mean, you're very open. You're a very open person. Frankly, a lot of people aren't. They don't want to share their personal life. They don't want their backgrounds, their real world backgrounds shown. A lot of, this Gen Z, this upcoming generation, they've stopped posting. I mean, a lot of them are quite private in their social and digital habits. So we got to look at the whole, the whole world in terms of, generational and, type of industry. And, so many industries are kind of stuck and not adapting and adopting these new tools. So it's really fascinating to be an observer.
Well, you also have to understand the nuances of various social media platforms. I mean, I go back to the old joke that I've posted a few times that I like, that no one is as happy as they see him on Facebook, and no one is as angry as they see him on Twitter. You have to understand what knowledge, what messaging you want to put out on the various platforms, and how and why. And once you understand that, and you've got that list of the do's and don'ts, you can be pretty successful. And I love talking with our customers. Even before social media, customers used to come up to me because they would read my blogs, and they would say, "Oh, I've read your stuff for years. I know you," and it's genuine. That's one of the reasons why. Nothing against my analyst friends, because I love all of them very much, and to a certain degree, I kind of have one foot in the analyst camp. But I've never actually been successful at being an analyst, because I feel a lot of industry analysts, at least in my space in collaboration, need to say good things about companies in order for companies to pay them. And they have to make a living that way, and I get that. But it's very hard for me to take something that I see that isn't very good and say it's very good just to accept money from the company. And the great thing when I
have my job, because I am the ultimate promoter in the old school sense. No, I mean, the companies I work with, as it happens, I mean, companies like Qualcomm and Intel and HP and all. I mean, these companies I've worked with, I actually really think they're doing fantastic work. So there's great alignment. Would I work with a Huawei or a company that I don't believe in? No, I haven't. So there's some, you have to be somewhat particular. But look, we're geeks at heart, right? And we love new tech, even if it's not great tech. I mean, it's still cool. So I've loved, for example, all the Poly devices that I have and have played with over the years. And there's always something new and exciting in tech. It's like constant waves of innovation, and that's really what's most fun about social media, is the constant discovery. Like, you're always discovering like something new, some new device, some app, some service. Actually, I spend 2 hours a day on Clubhouse. There's still a Clubhouse called a thing, and I'm just chatting on a group called Tech News Around the World, and we're just chatting about tech, like new tech stories, angles, perspectives. And there's so many people like me who are just obsessed with the latest and greatest things.
I was too much of a video geek to get into Clubhouse. It's like, where's the video? I want to turn it on. I want to see the
video. But look, audio, as you know, is part of the experience. And
absolutely,
on Clubhouse now, you wear a great headset. You have spatial audio. You almost feel like you are in the room with people. The audio quality is so high, so it's pretty immersive. As it's not like the old days where you and I were on conference calls all day, and it's like on a telephone, and your ears would go numb after a while. These days audio is pretty amazing.
Well, I was part of the first Clubhouse, in the late 1970s, the CB radio. I still have one hooked up over here, although what I find is when I turn it on, if I lower the squelch, let's get it down. There you go. I don't know if you can hear that. The Poly noise reduction might be cutting that out, but break 19. Anybody there? See, there's nobody on anymore, so it's just me and one.
You are the last man. You are No, but there actually CB is really important around the world. There are places like Ukraine where shortwave radio is like really important, and emerging countries. So yeah, these things have a long life, especially when it comes to first responders and
Sure.
fire safety and all that kind of stuff.
And I believe that having experience across all the various technologies, understanding broadcasting and broadcast lighting, helps me when I'm trying to set up broadcasting, which is tremendously easy to do, webcasting and narrowcasting from my house, and understanding CB radio and understanding radio, doing work in, for broadcast radio, helps me understand the importance of high quality audio. And, it's always great to take various technologies across these silos where they exist and sort of duct tape them together, or gaffers tape them together. And
we've had to learn. I mean, we've been forced. The pandemic has really forced us to adopt and adapt. And one thing we've seen with social media is adoption is through the roof. Like people who were never on social all of a sudden are connecting and engaged. Like my audience numbers went through the roof with the pandemic. Also, with AV, I mean, things like, my background here, believe it or not, no, I'm not at Kennedy. I'm not at Kennedy Space Center here.
Really? I mean, I thought you were in mission control. I was looking for the rocket to take off.
It's actually a thing called a green screen. And
awesome.
I had to learn what that was. A lot of people still don't know what a green screen was. But all these technologies, including lighting, like you say, and AV and noise cancellation. I mean, this is stuff, your mother has to use now, or your grandmother. So it's a brave new world.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you talk about things like green screen or background removal, this is a real background. Nobody would do this differently, but they're so easy now. You plug in a high quality camera. Even if you don't have a green screen, you can put in a fake background. But if you have the green screen, it's easier. And I go back to my broadcasting days where I was operating a piece of equipment called an Ultimat, which was the highest quality chroma key that you could have.
A car wash?
I don't know if you remember. There were these. It was a nasal spray company that did commercials that when you sprayed your nose, all the clouds would clear up in your head. So I was the engineer on that. So and you take these multi tens of thousands of dollar boxes, which are now done in your PC. And it's amazing. I cut my chops on a lot of that at Bloomberg because we learned to do broadcasting on things that weren't traditionally broadcast. And now anybody with a camera and a light and a PC can be putting out webcasts and podcasts, and anybody is.
No, and I'm really enjoying it. I do live streaming now with clients, and I get 2 million reach on those kind of videos. So yeah, we're each a mini media empire, building a media empire here. Speaking of which, events, are you back? Are you going back? And I know you've been out quite a bit.
So we are back with events. The next one coming up that I'm personally going to be at is CEDIA Expo in Dallas. The last 2 days of September, first day of October, I'm going to be chairing the work from home education panel, all of the various technologies coming from home. And then hopefully, Evan, counting on it, this January, you and I, are you going to be back in Vegas? Are you going to finally come back to CES?
Yes. I'm ready. I'm ready. I got so many boosters, I don't know what to do. So yes, I'm going.
No, I want another booster. I've had 2 vaccinations and 2 boosters, but I'm waiting for the new booster to come out.
That's going to be a good one.
I'm thinking it's going to be a nice cocktail. Exactly. We'll see just what's left of my arm and what's not
but if
boosted.
Joe Biden and a 79-year-old man can do it, I'm ready to get out there. But I think CES will be great, and maybe who knows, some international travel. That would be fun. Crazy thing to do.
Absolutely. It's other than just in our hemisphere, it would actually be really interesting. I did get to Barcelona earlier this year, and I was lucky. I haven't caught COVID since then. The only time I had COVID was I had some surgery in January, and I caught it at the hospital. So it was
go figure.
They took out a piece. They took out a piece of me, and they gave me COVID in exchange. So it kind of worked out just fine. So before we go too far past this, you just recently had a wonderful experience, right? You just got married again. And you want to tell us about how that went?
We got married in Boston, Irma Rostigaiva and I, and it was a very social wedding because I had lots of people like me who are into social media and business tech and it's funny. It's the one day I tweeted less than any other day.
I was expecting it to be live streamed. I was disappointed.
I know. I thought, yeah, I barely took my camera out. Of course, we had a professional photographer. So it's ironic. The one day that was sort of my spotlight, our spotlight, I was not really tweeting at all. So go figure. But yeah, we've moved in, very, very happy. And our new house, we bought a new house together, which meant, building something from the ground up in terms of AV and networking. And so that's been a fun experience. And I wrote a little article about that.
Yes, in the magazine that we do with the Commercial Integrator, Collaboration Today and Tomorrow. Go to commercialintegrator.com, and for the CEDIA Expo, which is September, it'll be in the September issue. Thank you. It's a great article.
Well, and it reminded me how not just important connectivity is, but if you have a bigger house, how difficult it is to actually get coverage across your whole home. So all of a sudden I was researching, mesh networking and extenders and all kinds of technology. Finally, I think I nailed it. So you'll be seeing some better quality videos coming out too.
Well, it drives me crazy that, when I bought my house 20 something years ago, I thought I was really cool that I was running, Cat 6 to all of the rooms in the house so that, for resale, if everyone wanted to sell the house, we would have this internet. And now all of a sudden, everything's wireless. Nobody cares. I got 3 routers in the house.
Well, wireless plus now, this isn't a new house, but new construction, they're putting Ethernet in everywhere, natively. So it's basically an office. So it's very, very brave new world when it comes to the devices. Then you got the Apple and the Google and the Amazon devices trying to get them to talk to each other.
Or not talk to each other, or not interfere.
Exactly.
All right. So I normally close out these interviews on any of the webcasts that I do or podcasts that I do, asking the person that I'm talking to, how would somebody find you and get in touch with you? I think for you, the answer is just turn on a damn computer, right? There really isn't anything hard than that. But let's be a little bit narrower in the conversation. Let's ask if there was an organization or a company that would like to use your services to help promote their brand or their product or their news, how would they reach out to you to get your attention the quickest?
If you don't know this, I'm kind of a big deal. I'm not sure if you realize that, but no, that was a favorite quote of mine from Anchorman. Yeah, just go to the Twitters, Evan Kirstel, and go to LinkedIn. I'd like more connections, more engagement on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's a much more interesting platform these days than Twitter, actually. So yeah, Evan Kirstel at LinkedIn.
But is that the best way for them to actually reach out to you one-on-one if somebody wants to say, hey, Evan, I'd like to
follow me. My DMs are open, as they say.
So somebody can go onto Twitter and LinkedIn and send you a message and you will reply.
Yes, that's you can tell you haven't dated in 30 or 40 years, because when you say your DMs are open, that means anyone can reach out.
No, I know what it meant. I'm trying to get you to say it so that everybody would be aware. It's not a plug unless you do the plug right. There we go. Okay.
And tag me on your favorite articles and news, and I will respond.
That's awesome. And I hope to see you again very soon, if not before then at CES next year. And I appreciate you sharing the information. One last question before we go. What if somebody wanted to be you, other than you? And I don't mean to, marry Irma. I just mean, what if somebody wanted to do what you do for a living? How would you suggest they start out?
Really just show up. Push the button. If it's video, write. If it's blogging, tweet. The key is just every day in, day out, or hour in, hour out, in my case, being consistent, showing up and engaging. It's not rocket science. There's no hack or silver bullet. It really is just putting yourself out there in a meaningful way and engaging. And it's just time and time's effort. There's no real shortcut. I've been doing this social thing for over a decade. And you have to really enjoy it. You have to enjoy connecting with people and discovery and that kind of thing.
What smart device do you use to stay in touch with things when you're traveling?
Which smart?
What phone? What mobile? What do you use when you're not in your home?
I have all the mobiles. I have iPhone with eSIMs, so I have AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile eSIMs in my device, so I can get bonded actually all 3 carriers and pick the best one to roam on.
And is the iPhone what you use to stay in touch with the social platforms when you're not
I have an Android and an iPhone. Yes, so
you carry them both.
I'm a big fan of all the things.
Awesome.
I don't like to be overseas without connectivity. That's my one.
I hear you.
principles.
You should see the stink I just put up when I was staying at one of the all-inclusives in the Bahamas, and they said their internet wasn't working and said it was my fault. It's like, no, I'm sorry. 2 iPads, an iPhone, and 3 computers. It's not my fault, guys.
Don't argue with me.
Smart enough to know that.
Yeah, and Starlink. So when they have that for mobile, I'm going to be in. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Evan. I really appreciate you joining us here. And for everyone at AVNation TV, I'm your host, David Danto. We will see you on the next episode of Connected. Only 3 more to go before we hit 50. Take care.